Chief Martin's voice cut through the air, slicing the comfortable silence like a knife. If all you're doing is staring at the screen, then indeed, even a new employee could easily handle such tasks. I can see a lack of responsibility in you, nothing more is needed. His words hit me like a ton of bricks. Shocked, I couldn't help but retort, "What you're saying, I'm being fired. Even though I alone am managing the entire company's system operations?" Chief Martin remained adamant, his tone unyielding. "Yes, exactly. Using remote work as an excuse for negligence is a sufficient reason for dismissal. You're no different from someone stealing a salary." I was dumbfounded. It was the moment something inside me snapped. Understanding dawned on me, and with a quiet yet firm resolve, I responded, "Then I will resign." This decision would bring a harsh future for Chief Martin, something beyond his imagination. Let me introduce myself. I am Sarah, a single woman office worker who just turned 30. At first glance, I might seem no different from any other office worker, but in reality, I'm solely responsible for managing the company's systems. Without me, the company's operations would grind to a halt. My fascination with computers began in childhood, sparked by a cartoon I happened upon. In that cartoon, a giant computer installed in a secret base was at the heart of the adventures of a brave hero and his loyal friends, working to protect world peace. The blinking lights of that computer captivated me, and I longed to own one just like it. However, realizing that my small apartment could never accommodate such a setup, I reluctantly gave up on that dream. Still, I pursued my passion, and after graduating from high school, I chose to study computer science at a vocational school. Although I managed to graduate, that qualification alone wasn't enough to open doors at any prestigious company. After visiting numerous companies and making many attempts, I finally got accepted by a company that held a decent position in the fashion industry. My expertise in computers was recognized, and I was offered a job managing their systems. At that time, the system management department was staffed with technicians from various higher education institutions who worked daily on maintaining the systems. However, technological advances were rapid, reducing the need for a large staff. With the wave of technological evolution, the organization began reducing. With a polite smile, "Yes, Chief Martin, this is the mainframe computer that manages our company's systems." He nodded thoughtfully, his expression a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "And you manage all of this alone?" I could sense the doubt in his voice, but I replied confidently, "Yes, I've been managing the system operations for quite some time now. It requires specialized knowledge, but I've got it under control." Chief Martin seemed to mull over my response for a moment before nodding. "Impressive," he muttered, almost to himself. "Well, keep up the good work." As he walked away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Perhaps Chief Martin was beginning to see my value after all. However, his doubts about my abilities continued to linger in the back of my mind. It wasn't just Chief Martin, I had faced skepticism and prejudice throughout my career simply because of my gender. But I refused to let it hold me back. I was determined to prove myself, not just for my own sake, but for every woman who had been underestimated and overlooked in the workplace. As the days passed, I continued to excel in my role, managing the company's systems with efficiency and precision. Despite Chief Martin's initial doubts, he gradually began to trust me more and more, even seeking my advice on various technological matters. But just when I thought things were finally falling into place, a new challenge arose. The company announced plans to undergo a major technological overhaul, transitioning to a new system that would revolutionize our operations. While many employees were excited about the changes, I couldn't shake the feeling of apprehension. It would be a massive undertaking, and the success of the transition would largely depend on my expertise. As the project got underway, I found myself working around the clock, troubleshooting issues, and ensuring a smooth transition. It was exhausting, but I was determined to see it through to the end. In the end, the transition was a resounding success, thanks in large part to my efforts. Chief Martin, once skeptical of my abilities, was now singing my praises, acknowledging the crucial role I had played in the company's success. But for me, the greatest satisfaction came from knowing that I had defied expectations and proven that a woman could excel in a male-dominated field. And as I looked towards the future, I knew that there would be many more challenges to overcome. But with determination and perseverance, there was nothing I couldn't achieve. Chief Martin's face appeared on the screen as the scheduled interview time arrived. "Good morning, Chief," I greeted him politely, trying to maintain a professional demeanor despite my discomfort with the situation. "Good morning," he responded, his expression serious as he adjusted his position in front of the camera. "Let's get started, shall we?" The interview proceeded much like I had expected, with Chief Martin asking standard questions about my performance and contributions to the company. I answered them to the best of my ability, trying to highlight my achievements while remaining humble. But then, Chief Martin surprised me by veering off script. "I couldn't help but notice your suggestion regarding the air conditioning system," he said, his tone measured. "While I appreciate your concern for energy conservation, I must remind you that our primary goal is to ensure the uninterrupted operation of our systems." I nodded, understanding his point of view, but couldn't help but feel a pang of frustration. It seemed that Chief Martin was more concerned with maintaining the status quo than exploring new ways to improve efficiency. As the interview drew to a close, Chief Martin thanked me for my time and assured me that he would take my suggestions into consideration. But I couldn't shake the feeling that my efforts to enact positive change were falling on deaf ears. In the days that followed, I found myself grappling with conflicting emotions. On one hand, I was grateful for the opportunity to work for a company that valued my expertise in system management. But on the other hand, I couldn't help but feel frustrated by the resistance to change, especially when it came to something as important as energy conservation. Despite my frustrations, I remained determined to do my job to the best of my ability. After all, the smooth operation of the company's systems depended on it. And who knows? Perhaps with time, Chief Martin would come to see the value in embracing new ideas and technologies. But for now, all I could do was focus on the task at hand and hope that my efforts would eventually lead to positive change. After all, in a world that was constantly evolving, adaptation was key to success. I couldn't hide my irritation, pretending to show respect while actually feeling insulted by Chief Martin's remarks. "Hold on a second," I interjected, my voice tinged with frustration. "Are you saying my presence doesn't add value?" Chief Martin let out a laugh, his tone condescending. "Well, from what I see, that seems to be the only way to put it." I felt a surge of indignation rise within me. I am confident that even working remotely, I provide valuable work that's worth the salary. Chief Martin raised an eyebrow, as if amused by my defiance. "Is that so? Work, after all, is about producing clear, tangible results, isn't it?" "Indeed, that's true," I replied, trying to keep my composure. "However, the fact that the system is running smoothly is the fruit of my labor. Ensuring the computer's smooth operation is the bare minimum. Why does it require maintenance so frequently?" Chief Martin countered. "For example, cars don't need daily, constant monitoring, right?" I bristled at his comparison. That comparison is nonsensical. Cars and computer systems have fundamentally different issues. Chief Martin shrugged, seemingly unfazed by my rebuttal. "Be that as it may, I still believe that the tasks you're currently handling could be adequately managed by any female employee." His words stung like a slap in the face. It was clear that Chief Martin's views on gender roles were deeply ingrained, and no amount of argument would change his mind. But I refused to back down. I had worked too hard to let someone like Chief Martin undermine my accomplishments. If anything, his skepticism only fueled my determination to prove him wrong. As the interview drew to a close, I thanked Chief Martin for his time, plastering a polite smile on my face despite the turmoil raging inside me. But as soon as the call ended, I couldn't help but seethe with anger. It was clear that Chief Martin would never fully appreciate the value of my work, no matter how hard I tried to prove myself. But I wasn't about to let his narrow-mindedness hold me back. In the days that followed, I threw myself into my work with renewed vigor, determined to show Chief Martin, and anyone else who doubted me, that I was more than capable of excelling in my role, regardless of my gender. And as I watched the company's systems continue to run smoothly under my watchful eye, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride knowing that my hard work was making a difference, even if Chief Martin couldn't see it. Chief, are you perhaps not fully aware of how crucial system management is? I found myself passionately standing up, ready to deliver a commendable argument. But before I could continue, Chief Martin's voice cut through the air, dripping with disapproval. But your casual attire somewhat undermines your credibility. At that moment, I regretted my carelessness. My lower half was exposed to the chief, a mistake that could potentially tarnish my professionalism. If you're so confident, why not document your tasks into a manual? Chief Martin suggested, his tone challenging. If you can do that, I'll acknowledge it as an accomplishment. I nodded, swallowing my pride. Understood. I'll create a detailed and comprehensive manual covering all aspects related to this company's system and present it to you. But Chief Martin's response caught me off guard. Actually, what we're looking for here isn't complex content, but simply the procedures. If those are documented, someone else could potentially take over the tasks you handle. Wait, does that mean he no longer sees a need for my presence? I was so shocked that I momentarily lost my words, standing there with my mouth half open. Chief Martin seemed to take my reaction as an affirmative response. Good, then it's settled. Please take care of it. It was as if Chief Martin had made a final decision. Suddenly, the computer screen went dark, and Chief Martin's face disappeared. I was left standing there, feeling a mix of confusion and frustration. That evening, I quietly enjoyed a glass of wine alone at home, accompanied only by my 3 loyal minions, my cats. As I stroked them gently, lost in thought about the future, I couldn't help but feel a sense of resignation. Well, things will work out somehow. Life has its ups and downs, as the old proverb says. A bend in the road is not the end of the road, unless you fail to make the turn. Convincing myself of this, I gulped down the rest of my wine. I was entrusted with an important task from the company, selecting tablets for sales use. Though intended for sales activities, I believed it desirable to choose tablets that offered enough functionality to smoothly access the company's internal systems, such as attendance management and expense settlement. But when I proposed this to Chief Martin, his reaction was dismissive. We don't need such high-functioning tablets. Proposals based on your personal preferences disregard the company's financial situation. It seemed that no matter how hard I tried to prove myself, Chief Martin remained resolute in his beliefs. But I refused to let his narrow-mindedness hold me back. I would continue to strive for excellence in my work, regardless of the obstacles in my path. After all, true success comes from within, not from the approval of others. Additional costs that could be avoided if the inventory was accurate. I realized that Chief Martin's focus on cost reduction might have inadvertently led to oversight in inventory management. Feeling a sense of responsibility, I decided to investigate further. I meticulously reviewed the inventory records, comparing them with purchase orders and disposal requests. After hours of thorough examination, I finally uncovered the source of the discrepancy. It turned out that some of the computers slated for disposal had been mistakenly marked as still in use. This oversight had resulted in unnecessary expenses for the company, contradicting Chief Martin's goal of cost reduction. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I prepared a detailed report outlining the issue and proposing solutions to prevent similar incidents in the future. Despite Chief Martin's initial skepticism, I was determined to show him the value of my work, not just in terms of cost reduction, but also in ensuring the smooth operation of the company's systems. As I submitted the report, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. It was a small victory, but it proved that my efforts were making a difference, even if Chief Martin didn't always see it. In the days that followed, I continued to monitor the inventory closely, implementing new procedures to ensure accuracy and efficiency. And while Chief Martin remained focused on his own evaluation, I took pride in knowing that I was contributing to the company in meaningful ways. As I sipped my coffee on my next day off, I couldn't help but smile at the thought of the unusual sight I had witnessed with Chief Martin at the bar. It served as a reminder that everyone, even the most senior executives, had their own lives and struggles outside of work. But for now, I was content to focus on my own work, knowing that I was making a difference in my own way. And as I returned to my tasks with renewed determination, I felt a sense of optimism for the future, knowing that I had the power to effect change, one small step at a time. "You're slacking off and neglecting your responsibilities," Chief Martin accused, his tone accusatory. I felt a surge of frustration rise within me. "Chief Martin, I assure you, I've been diligently performing my duties from home," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady despite the mounting tension between us. But Chief Martin wasn't convinced. "According to your work report, it seems you spend most of your time at home doing internet searches or watching videos," he retorted, his voice tinged with disapproval. I sighed deeply, preparing myself to once again explain my actions. "As you know, internet searches are essential for gathering information necessary for carrying out our work, and watching videos is part of research material related to our tasks," I began quietly, hoping to clarify my actions. "If you look at the browsing logs, you should be able to understand what pages were visited and why," I continued, trying to remain calm despite Chief Martin's skepticism. "Work is supposed to produce concrete results, which are reflected in work performance and ultimately form the basis of evaluation." But Chief Martin remained unmoved. "The fact that you have no results to show essentially means you haven't been performing your duties, which makes you ineligible for evaluation," he declared, his tone final. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could Chief Martin dismiss my hard work and dedication so easily? "However, the task I am responsible for ensures that the company's system runs smoothly and without issues," I protested, desperation creeping into my voice. But Chief Martin seemed determined to undermine my efforts. "So you're saying that just because the system is operating smoothly, you haven't done anything?" he countered, his skepticism evident. It was clear that Chief Martin was unwilling to see things from my perspective. No matter how hard I tried to explain my actions, he remained steadfast in his belief that I wasn't pulling my weight. As the conversation drew to a close, I couldn't help but feel a sense of frustration and disappointment. Despite my best efforts, it seemed that Chief Martin would never truly understand the value of my work. But I refused to let his doubts and accusations deter me. I would continue to perform my duties to the best of my ability, proving Chief Martin wrong with my actions, if not my words. And as I returned to my tasks with renewed determination, I vowed to show Chief Martin, and everyone else who doubted me, that I was more than capable of excelling in my role, no matter what obstacles stood in my way. "That the situation with Chief Martin has become untenable," the director began, his voice carrying a tone of concern. "Your role in managing the company's IT infrastructure is crucial, and your dedication to ensuring its stable operation has not gone unnoticed." I felt a glimmer of hope stir within me. Perhaps the director understood the value of my work better than Chief Martin did. "Thank you, Director," I replied, gratitude evident in my voice. "I take great pride in my work and strive to fulfill my responsibilities to the best of my ability." The director nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I've reviewed your performance reports and can see the tangible impact you've had on the company's operations. It's clear that your expertise is indispensable." I couldn't help but feel a sense of validation wash over me. After weeks of facing Chief Martin's skepticism and criticism, it was reassuring to know that someone in a position of authority recognized my contributions. However, the director continued, his tone turning serious, "I understand that the situation with Chief Martin has been difficult for you. It's unacceptable for any employee to be subjected to such treatment, especially when their work is so vital to the company's success." I nodded in agreement, grateful that the director understood the gravity of the situation. "I appreciate your support, Director," I replied, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. "I believe it's time for me to take a stand and ensure that my contributions are recognized and valued." The director smiled, a reassuring gesture. "I fully support your decision, Sarah. If there's anything I can do to assist you during this transition, please don't hesitate to let me know." With renewed determination, I thanked the director for his understanding and support. It was clear that I had allies within the company who recognized the importance of my role and were willing to stand by me in the face of adversity. As I ended the call with the director, I felt a sense of empowerment surge within me. Armed with the director's support, I was ready to take the next step in my career and ensure that my talents were recognized and valued. And as I prepared to embark on this new chapter, I couldn't help but feel a sense of optimism for the future. With the director's backing, I knew that I had the strength and determination to overcome any obstacles that stood in my way. But I understand that she has her reasons. Her dedication and expertise in managing our company's systems will be sorely missed. Chief Martin nodded in agreement, though his expression remained somewhat aloof. Indeed, it's unfortunate to see her go, but we must respect her decision. I couldn't help but feel a mixture of emotions as I listened to the director and Chief Martin discuss my departure. While part of me felt a sense of relief knowing that I was finally leaving behind the scrutiny and accusations, another part of me felt a pang of sadness at leaving behind a job that I had poured so much of myself into. As the conversation continued, the director turned to me with a warm smile. "Sarah, I want to thank you for your hard work and dedication during your time with us. Your contributions have been invaluable, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors." I felt a lump form in my throat as I replied, "Thank you, Director. It's been an honor and a privilege to work for this company. I've learned so much during my time here, and I'm grateful for the opportunities I've been given." Chief Martin remained silent, his expression unreadable. But as I gathered my belongings and prepared to leave the office for the last time, I couldn't help but feel a sense of closure. Despite the challenges I had faced and the doubts that had been cast upon me, I knew that I was leaving on my own terms, with my head held high. As I stepped out of the office building and into the bright sunlight, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The future was uncertain, but I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with confidence and determination. And as I walked away from the company that had been my home for so long, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement for the new opportunities that awaited me. With each step, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and a determination to carve out a path that was truly my own. We found that the seller was none other than a user with the initials BM. Now, who could that be? Chief Martin's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief as the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. But I didn't. He started, his voice trailing off as he struggled to find the right words. The director's gaze hardened as he addressed Chief Martin. "It seems there has been a serious breach of trust and integrity within our organization. The matter will be thoroughly investigated, and appropriate actions will be taken." I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication as the truth came to light. Despite Chief Martin's attempts to undermine me and cast doubt on my abilities, it was clear that his own actions had led to his downfall. As the director and Chief Martin continued their discussion, I couldn't help but reflect on the events that had led to this moment. Despite the challenges I had faced and the doubts that had been cast upon me, I had remained steadfast in my dedication to my work. And now, as I prepared to embark on a new chapter in my career, I felt a renewed sense of confidence and purpose. The road ahead might be uncertain, but I knew that I had the skills and determination to overcome any obstacles that came my way. As I left the office for the final time, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The future was full of possibilities, and I was ready to embrace whatever opportunities came my way. And as I walked away from the company that had been my home for so long, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the experiences I had gained and the lessons I had learned along the way. With my head held high and a newfound sense of purpose, I stepped into the unknown, ready to write the next chapter of my story. Chief Martin's fall from grace was swift and thorough. The revelation of his involvement in the misappropriation of company assets sent shockwaves through the organization. As the dust settled, it became clear that his actions had not only compromised his own integrity but had also tarnished the reputation of the company. For me, it was a bittersweet moment. While I couldn't deny feeling a sense of satisfaction at seeing Chief Martin held accountable for his actions, I also couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for him. After all, his downfall had been of his own making, the result of his greed and disregard for the trust placed in him. As Chief Martin was demoted and his salary reduced, I couldn't help but reflect on the importance of integrity and honesty in the workplace. While ambition and drive are admirable qualities, they must always be tempered by a sense of responsibility and respect for others. As I moved forward in my own career, I vowed to always uphold the values that had guided me thus far. And as I looked towards the future, I did so with a renewed sense of purpose and determination, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The tension in the director's office was palpable as Chief Martin's outburst filled the air. His pride wounded, he refused to accept the new arrangement, viewing it as a personal affront to his dignity. But the director remained unfazed, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to Chief Martin's agitation. As Chief Martin declared his intention to sever ties with the company rather than accept what he perceived as a demeaning position, the director's response was measured yet decisive. With a simple acknowledgement of Chief Martin's decision, he signaled the end of an era. For me, the events unfolding before my eyes served as a poignant reminder of the importance of humility and adaptability in the face of change. As I stepped into my new role as the head of the system department, I knew that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges. But with the support of my colleagues and the guidance of the director, I felt confident that I was ready to embrace whatever the future held. As Chief Martin exited the office, his departure marked the end of an era. But for me, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with promise and opportunity. And as I looked towards the horizon, I did so with a sense of excitement and determination, ready to lead my team into a brighter future. As the door closed behind Chief Martin, I couldn't help but feel a sense of finality settle over the room. His departure marked the end of an era, but also the beginning of a new chapter for both him and the company. Watching him leave, I couldn't help but wonder about the challenges he would face in the days ahead. Finding a new job, especially at his age, wouldn't be easy. And the rumors of financial troubles only added to the weight of his situation. Meanwhile, as the leader of the newly established system department, I focused on my responsibilities with renewed determination. While the nature of my work remained largely unchanged, the improved operational efficiency resulting from direct communication with the director was a welcome development. Sitting in my chair, surrounded by the hum of computers, I found solace in the familiarity of my tasks. Yet, amidst the busyness of my work, thoughts of my family tugged at my heartstrings. It had been too long since I last saw them, and the idea of visiting home sparked a brief moment of contemplation. However, duty called, and I quickly refocused my attention on the task at hand. My commitment to my work remained steadfast, and the satisfaction I derived from each small achievement only served to fuel my determination further. It's strange how life can throw you unexpected curves when you least expect it. I'm Kate, and for the most part, my life has been pretty straightforward. I run a cafe in my hometown, a dream come true that I've been nurturing since my college days. The cafe has been doing well for the last 3 years, and I've poured my heart and soul into it, sacrificing personal relationships along the way. But today, I'm not here to talk about my business successes or my lonely personal life. Today, it's about something completely different, something urgent. This morning, I got a call from my sister. She sounded anxious as she explained that her daughter, Mindy, couldn't stay with our parents anymore. "Kate, can you take care of Mindy on the weekends?" she asked, hurriedly. I was taken aback. "Are Mom and Dad busy? How long will this last?" I questioned, trying to grasp the situation. "I'm not sure," my sister replied, her voice heavy with uncertainty. "Maybe she won't be able to stay with them anymore." "What happened? Did you have a fight with them?" The questions were burning in my mind. "They want to tell you directly about the detailed situation, so please wait a bit for the explanation. For now, since tomorrow is Saturday, please take care of Mindy," she insisted. The sudden responsibility felt overwhelming. "This is so sudden, it's impossible, you know. I have a trip planned with my buddies." "I can't change the plans this late in the game," I protested. But from the urgency in her voice, it was clear that this was more important than any trip. The next day, as my husband packed for his trip, the weight of the situation began to sink in. He's never been cooperative in raising his daughter, and it seemed it was too late to complain about it now. But this time, something felt different, something unforgivable. As I was pondering over these thoughts, I reached for my purse, looking to check some receipts. That's when I noticed my credit card was missing. Panicked, I called my husband. "Hey, did you take my credit card without asking?" "Yeah, I'm using your card for the trip," he responded nonchalantly. The realization hit me hard. There was a thief in my own home. I'd done so much for my in-laws, but at that moment, I decided to throw all that away and leave him. But let's rewind to a brighter part of my day, to the cafe, where my real passion lies. Just when I thought all was lost in my personal life, an unexpected visitor walked in. "Is it okay if I bring my little one in here?" a parent asked, breaking through my reverie. "Of course, our place is kid-friendly." "No problem at all," I responded, showing them to their seat with a warm smile. It was moments like these, simple, fulfilling, that reminded me why I started all this in the first place. Life at 35 might not be what I imagined in some ways, but in others, it was more than I could have ever hoped for. As the cafe's day wound down, I found myself more entangled in personal connections that seemed to weave themselves back into my life when I least expected it. The small interactions with Kyle and his daughter Mindy began to fill a void I hadn't realized was so deep. The routine of closing up the shop was accompanied by reflections on how quickly my life had shifted from being singularly focused on my career to being a blend of personal and professional fulfillment. Kyle started bringing Mindy to the cafe more regularly after our chance reunion. Their visits became the highlights of my days, breaking up the monotony of managing the cafe. Mindy, with her shy smiles and hesitant tales from kindergarten, gradually became more comfortable around me. It was during these visits that I noticed how easily I had slipped into a role I hadn't anticipated, part friend, part confidant to a young girl who was as much a stranger as she was family. Listen to this. Yesterday at kindergarten, my friend was like, hey, Kate is working right now. It's okay, it's all good," Mindy recounted one afternoon, her face lighting up with the excitement of sharing her world with me. This connection with Mindy somehow made Kyle look at me differently, and before I knew it, what started as friendly visits evolved into evenings spent together after the cafe closed, dinners at each other's homes, and long conversations about everything and nothing. It was surreal, how life looped in circles. Kyle and I began dating, and a year later, we married. It felt like a grand slam, marrying my first love at a time when I had almost given up on such fantasies. But as they say, marriage is just the beginning, and for us, it certainly was. The initial euphoria of our wedding gave way to the realities of blending our lives together. Kyle moved into my spacious apartment with Mindy. The space, which once felt too large and echoing with my own loneliness, now felt just right, filled with their presence. However, this new arrangement came with its own set of challenges. Kyle's job was out of state, requiring him to commute for an hour and a half one way. This meant he often got home late, and with the demands of running the cafe, I too found myself coming back late more often than not. The dynamics in our home began to shift. The loneliness I once felt in the apartment was replaced by a different kind of solitude, one marked by waiting for Kyle to come home, by dinners eaten alone or in the quiet company of Mindy, who missed her father's presence at the table. The vibrancy of our early days began to dim under the weight of daily routines and missed connections. This life, so newly forged from the remnants of past dreams and present realities, was as challenging as it was rewarding. The cafe continued to thrive, a testament to my hard work and passion, but my home life, filled with the laughter and challenges of a small family, was a constant reminder of how complex happiness could be. As I locked up the cafe each night and headed home, I knew that each step was a walk toward a life full of love, struggles, and the endless pursuit of balance. With the bustling life of managing my cafe and adapting to married life with Kyle, every day presented its own set of challenges and moments of joy. Mindy, our little bundle of energy, was growing up fast, and the rhythm of our lives seemed to revolve as much around her schedule as it did around the cafe's peak hours. Fortunately, my in-laws were angels disguised as regular people. They adored Mindy and were always ready to help us out by looking after her until I could pick her up. "I'm sorry for always leaving Mindy with you," I apologized one evening when I arrived to pick her up. "It's totally fine, we're actually happy to spend time with our granddaughter." Linda, my mother-in-law, reassured me with a warm smile, while Steve nodded in agreement. "We wouldn't mind even if you left her with us all the time," he added, his tone light and comforting. "Ah, Kate, welcome back. Have you had dinner yet? Why don't you eat here?" Linda would often ask as I stepped through their door. "Thanks, but I need to prepare dinner for my husband," I replied, though I was tempted by the offer. "You can take some leftovers home, my brother will be fine with leftovers, right?" Linda would tease, knowing that Kyle had no complaints about her cooking. "That would be a bit too pitiful if it happens too often," I joked back, sharing a laugh with Natalie, my sister-in-law. Our relationship had grown strong, filled with light-hearted teasing and mutual understanding. Natalie, who usually worked in the office of their family-run factory, often picked up Mindy from preschool. Her flexibility in managing both her work and watching over Mindy was a godsend, especially on days when the cafe demanded all my attention. Despite the wonderful support system, life wasn't without its issues. Kyle, now working a less demanding job that paid less than his previous position, had not adjusted his spending habits accordingly. His love for hobbies like motorcycling, outdoor activities, and golf continued unabated, often leading to tension between us over finances. "Kyle, did you buy something again?" I asked one day when a new package arrived. "Oh, has it finally come? This will make the graphics on my PC better," he beamed, not sensing my frustration. "How much did that cost?" I pressed, already dreading the answer. "About $1,100, I think," he replied casually, as if the amount was insignificant. "Buying such expensive things again?" I sighed, my voice a mix of disappointment and concern. "It's fine, this will improve my work efficiency," Kyle tried to justify, but I knew better. The part wasn't for his work computer. It was for his gaming setup. His casual spending of over $1,000 on a hobby was becoming a sore point between us. "Kyle, you came back here, switched jobs, and now you're earning less than you did at your previous company, right? You should reconsider how you're using money," I urged him, hoping he would see the bigger picture. The financial strain was starting to affect our relationship, and while I cherished our family time and the support from our relatives, the burden of financial irresponsibility was something we needed to address. I hoped for a change, a shift in Kyle's priorities, as we navigated the complex waters of our new life together. During our heated argument, my frustration with Kyle reached a breaking point. It was hard to reconcile the man I thought I married with the person standing before me, accusing me of being overly concerned with money. It struck a nerve, especially given all the sacrifices and efforts I put into managing our finances wisely. "Kyle, these are things I'm buying with money I've earned myself. I'm not causing you any trouble, am I? You contribute to our living expenses, please. Your store is doing well, and you're even planning to open a second location, right?" Kyle's voice carried a mix of defensiveness and irritation as he pointed out my business success, implying that my financial contributions were enough for both of us. I swallowed the words that were on the tip of my tongue, struggling to keep my composure. Why do I need to cut corners on meals and save money even though I'm earning money? Just because you're a business owner, you think you know how to use money wisely? His tone was accusatory, as if my careful financial planning was a burden rather than a benefit to our family. It was painful to hear Kyle push these values on me, both inside and outside the house. It seemed like he was two different people, and I felt deceived by the public persona he had shown before. However, I also knew that Kyle hadn't always been this careless with money. His transformation had begun after his first divorce, which had been caused by his partner's affair. The shock and emotional backlash from that period in his life were understandable, but it had been over a year since then, and we were now married with a new life and responsibilities together. I tried to be understanding, knowing the wounds he carried from his divorce. "Kyle, it's been over a year since the divorce. We're married now, and we have started a new life together. We even have a daughter. I can't afford to have you moping around forever. Starting next month, even if it's just a little, contribute to the living expenses, okay?" His response took me by surprise. "Huh? What are you planning to do with all that money you're hoarding?" He accused me of hoarding money, completely misunderstanding my intentions. "I'm not hoarding money. Why are you so obsessed with money, you money grubber?" His words were sharp, cutting deeper than I expected. "Where do you get off calling me a money grubber? And you, when are you going to stop being so deluded, thinking people are still going to pamper you? You're not young enough to be spoiled anymore, you know." "Where am I acting spoiled?" I retorted, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. It was the first time since we started our married life that we had a major argument. I realized then that I should have addressed these issues sooner. Unlike Kyle, who was popular and had experience with marriage, I had no prior experience in relationships. I didn't know how to effectively communicate my frustrations or set boundaries. But being called a money grubber by my husband, who seemed oblivious to our financial realities and insensitive to my feelings, made me explode with frustration. "Enough," I finally said, my voice firm, signaling that I had reached my limit. This argument had to be a turning point for us, for better or worse. Kyle's frustration seemed to peak that night. After a heated exchange at the dinner table, where his anger spilled over from our earlier arguments, he abruptly slammed his fork down and retreated to the bedroom. His actions, more akin to a child's tantrum than the man I remembered from our youth, left me questioning how much our relationship had really deteriorated. The next day, when I arrived home early from the cafe, Kyle was already there, his mood visibly sour. "Welcome back, you're home early today," I greeted him, trying to keep the atmosphere light despite the tension. "I got so pissed off, I quit," he blurted out, the frustration evident in his tone. "What? You quit your job?" I was shocked, struggling to comprehend his decision. "Yeah, my boss was incompetent, giving me wrong directions all the time. When I do my job the right way, he yells at me," Kyle explained, his voice a mixture of anger and justification. I sighed, trying to reason with him. "I understand you had achievements at your previous job, but every company has its own way of doing things, right? You've only been at this job for about a year. Don't you need to build a track record first, before making complaints?" "Because my boss is incompetent, I can't even build a track record," he countered, his frustration thwarting any rationale I offered. Now, not only had our arguments escalated, but Kyle had also lost his income, further straining our already tight financial situation. Kyle started job hunting right away, but each interview seemed to end in dissatisfaction. He criticized everything from the attitude of the interviewers to the company's apparent inability to evaluate him properly. But deep down, I knew the truth, he just wasn't getting hired. His frustrations began to seep into our home life more visibly. One afternoon, I heard our daughter crying in the living room. Rushing in, I found that Kyle had kicked her toys away, annoyed by the clutter. "Hey, what are you doing?" I yelled, my voice sharp with concern. "She's in the way," Kyle muttered irritably. "How is she in the way?" "There's only one toy out, and she was playing quietly," I defended our daughter, shocked at his lack of patience. Kyle's irritation was palpable, and it seemed his inability to secure a job was affecting his self-esteem and mood significantly. He had been an excellent, ambitious person in his youth, but it seemed the pressures of real-life responsibilities and failures were warping his perspective and behavior. Despite having no income, Kyle did not curb his spending habits, and after a while, he even stopped job hunting altogether. One day, out of options, he made a surprising suggestion. "Hey, aren't you going to look for a job?" I asked, growing concerned about our financial future. "I can't find a company that will evaluate me properly." "What can you do?" "Hey, why don't you hire me at your shop?" he proposed half seriously. "You can't even cook an egg, can you?" I replied, half joking, half serious. "That's true. "I'm more suited to using my brain than my body," he admitted, and I was relieved when he easily backed down from the idea. Hiring him was not a solution, it would only complicate things further. "What are you going to do about work? You can't be unemployed forever, right?" I pressed, needing him to think realistically. "Don't worry about it. If push comes to shove, I can take over my parents' factory," he said nonchalantly, as if the solution was just that simple. But Kyle had no experience in factory work or management. His casual dismissal of the skills and experience needed was yet another sign of how disconnected he was from reality. As much as I wanted to support him, I knew that a serious change in attitude was necessary for us to move forward and stabilize our life again. Kyle's attitude toward work and his responsibilities at home was becoming increasingly frustrating for me. The cavalier way he dismissed serious concerns about employment and the fact that he would even consider taking over his parents' factory without any real experience was baffling. "Do you really think you can do it if you just put your mind to it?" I challenged him. "I just can't get serious for someone else's company, you know. The environment really matters when it comes to giving it your all," he replied with a shrug. This laissez-faire attitude left me dumbfounded, and every interaction with him only added to the daily stress I was already feeling. Adding to the complexities, a new issue arose concerning our daughter, Mindy. "I can't leave her with your parents for a while. I'll manage on weekdays, but could you look after her on weekends instead of going on bike tours or golfing?" I asked, trying to negotiate some semblance of balance between our responsibilities. Are Mom and Dad busy? How long will it be?" Kyle asked, clearly caught off guard. "I don't know, but it might be that we can't leave her with them anymore." "What, did you have a fight with them or something?" I tried to explain the situation succinctly, hoping it would motivate him to take a more active role. "Your parents want to talk to you about the details directly, so please wait a bit for the explanation," I added, knowing that sometimes messages are better received when they come directly from the source. Kyle's response was about what I expected, unfortunately. He was more concerned about the changes at the factory, his potential future role there, and his immediate plans. "What are they bringing in new machines to the factory and increasing the workload? I'm going to take over in the future, so I'd welcome them expanding the business now," he mused, more interested in the factory than our immediate issue with Mindy. "For now, please take care of Mindy tomorrow, it's Saturday." "Your dad or Mom said they'd come over to talk," I pressed, hoping he'd realize the urgency. "What? It's impossible if you tell me all of a sudden like this. I'm sorry for the sudden request, but this is more important than a trip. I've had a travel plan with my biking buddies for a while now. I can't change it now," he dismissed, his plans clearly set. "A trip? What is that? I didn't hear anything about that. Do I need to tell you? You're working, and on weekends I'm the one taking Mindy to my parents' place, right?" I argued, my frustration mounting. "This is about Mindy and your parents, can't you do something about your trip tomorrow?" I tried to appeal to his sense of duty as a father. No way, no way. I need to sleep early for tomorrow." Kyle brushed me off and went to the bedroom, laughing off the situation. I was filled with anger at his lack of seriousness, especially when it concerned our daughter and his own parents. However, I also recognized that the sudden nature of the request may have put him off. In a bid to manage the situation myself, I contacted my manager at the cafe and asked if they could manage without me for the next day. By increasing the number of part-time workers by 2, the shop was able to operate without me, allowing me to stay home and take care of Mindy. As Saturday morning dawned and Kyle indeed went on his trip, I was left alone to handle the responsibilities he had shrugged off. While I was angry at his attitude, it wasn't the first time he had been uncooperative with childcare, and I had to focus on Mindy and the forthcoming conversation with his parents. The situation was far from ideal, but it was the reality I had to manage. My anger flared anew on Sunday morning when I discovered that Kyle had taken my credit card without my permission. The initial plan had been for his parents to visit us, but with Kyle away on his trip, I decided to handle some pending matters at my in-laws' house instead. Before leaving, I opened the shelf where I usually kept my bank book and cards, and that's when I noticed my credit card was missing. Panic set in as I frantically searched my wallet, bag, and other shelves. After exhausting all possible hiding spots and finding nothing, a sickening suspicion took hold. I called Kyle immediately, my voice tense. "Hey, did you take my credit card without asking?" "Yeah, I'm using your card for the trip." "You were hoarding money, weren't you?" "I'm out of savings, so it really helped me out," he replied casually, as if he had done nothing wrong. That money wasn't hidden savings, it was the money I had been saving for Mindy's future, her education and extracurricular activities. I had put that money in my own account for practicality, since creating a new account for my daughter seemed unnecessary at the time. Whenever I shopped with Kyle, I was cautious, but he must have watched me enter my PIN or seen where I put the card. "I never thought I would be a victim of theft by a family member," I said, the hurt evident in my voice. "Oh, my bad. But I used quite a bit yesterday." "I'll try not to use it today, so just save up again," Kyle replied, oblivious to the severity of his actions. "How much did you use?" I asked, dreading the answer. "About $5,000, I guess." "What? $5,000 in one day? How did that happen?" "So, there are 6 of us on this trip, and I'm picking up the tab for everything. They didn't know it was your money, they thought it was my secret stash or something." "I'm really sorry about that," he tried to explain, but his apology sounded hollow. Over the phone, Kyle's voice carried no real panic or remorse. "First of all, using someone else's card without permission is just out of line. You just don't understand the value of money, do you? Are you going to push your entrepreneur values on me again? Give it a rest, will you? I'm trying to enjoy the trip here, don't ruin the mood. It's just around $5,000. Just $5,000? Could you even earn that much now with the way things are?" I challenged, my voice rising with frustration. "What did you just say?" "I can earn $5,000 in no time." "Heck, I can earn even more than that," Kyle retorted, his tone defiant. "Fine, if that's the case, you can live on your own, can't you?" I snapped back, the words bitter and final. "I feel relieved hearing you say that," he responded, and before he could say another word, I hung up. The realization that our relationship had deteriorated to this point was devastating, but it was clear that something needed to change. As I put down the phone, a mix of anger, betrayal, and resolve settled within me. It was evident that our paths were diverging, and I needed to make decisions that would protect both Mindy and myself from further harm. When Kyle returned from his trip, he found the house empty. The only sign that we had once lived there together was the silence that echoed through the rooms, a stark contrast to the usual sounds of our life together. I didn't leave a note. I believed the conversation we had before he left said everything that needed to be said. As for Mindy and me, we were at my in-laws' house. When I arrived with our bags, the look on my face must have conveyed more than words could. "Oh, Kate, what happened?" Linda, my mother-in-law, asked as soon as she saw us at the doorstep. "Well, actually," I began, and the floodgates opened. I told them everything, about Kyle stealing my credit card, the extravagant spending, and our subsequent phone call where he claimed he could live on his own. Their reaction was immediate and furious. "What the hell, Kate? You've been turning a blind eye to his selfish behavior because you thought he was heartbroken from the divorce. I can't believe he would go that far." Steve, my father-in-law, exclaimed. Both of them were visibly upset, not just at what had happened but also because they felt partly responsible for advising me to be patient with Kyle, hoping he would revert to the dependable man he once was. I was on good terms with my in-laws and had often discussed my troubles with them. They had urged me to give Kyle more time, attributing his behavior to the heartbreak from his previous divorce. They believed that time would heal his wounds and he would return to his old self. I shared that hope once, but after a year of enduring his increasingly selfish actions, I reached my breaking point. "I am really grateful for all the help you've given me," but on the phone, my husband said he could live by himself, So I am considering a divorce, I confessed, the weight of my decision heavy on my heart. Recalling the past year living with Mindy, and all the times my in-laws stepped in to help, even feeding her dinner when they knew I was overwhelmed, brought tears to my eyes. I feared that initiating another divorce would make them resent me. However, their response surprised me. It's Kyle's fault. He's been moping around forever. You're better off divorcing him quickly. Don't you dare think this is your fault, Kate. We should be the ones apologizing. We're really sorry for everything, Linda reassured me, her words filled with genuine regret and support. Wait, you're okay with me getting a divorce? I asked, needing to hear it again. Of course, we are. He said he can live on his own, didn't he? Then just let him be. We'll help you out if you need anything, Steve added firmly. My in-laws' unequivocal support was a relief. I had braced myself for a scolding or disappointment when I decided to tell them about my intention to divorce, but instead, I felt a huge sense of relief. After settling things at my in-laws' place, I had planned to stay at a hotel, but Mindy and I ended up staying with them that night, feeling more at home than I had in a long time. As we settled down for the night, I reflected on the tumultuous journey. While the future was uncertain, knowing I had the support of my in-laws gave me the strength to face whatever came next. As Kyle tried to step past me into the in-laws' house, he was met with a firm blockade formed by Steve, Linda, and Natalie. His expression, a mix of confusion and irritation, deepened when his father firmly stated, "You're not coming into this house." "Dad, what are you talking about?" Kyle's voice cracked slightly, betraying his mounting frustration. "You've been asking what we're talking about, but you clearly don't understand this situation at all," Steve continued, his voice stern. "We know what you've been doing to Kate and we're not going to help you. You're not a child anymore. Stop whining and acting like a spoiled brat." Kyle's face turned pale as the weight of his family's disapproval hit him. He looked around, perhaps hoping to find an ally, but found none. Isn't there anyone on my side?" he asked, his voice a mixture of disbelief and desperation. "No, Kyle," Linda spoke up, her voice resolute yet heavy with emotion. "Yes, we are related by blood, but Kate has been much more of a family to us than you have recently." "What do you mean? You don't even know what's going on in this house, do you? Or rather, you've never bothered to find out, have you?" Steve added sharply. The truth then came out, something that took both Kyle and me by surprise. "The truth is, we're closing down the factory. The business has been doing terribly. You said you'd take over the factory if you couldn't find a job, but what are you going to do now that the factory is gone?" The revelation stunned me. The in-laws' factory had been struggling, but the three of them had kept it a secret from both Kyle and me. As I picked up our daughter Mindy from their house each day, I had noticed a sadness in the three of them despite their cheerful demeanor, and I couldn't help but suspect something was wrong. "Natalie, is there something bothering you?" I had asked one day, sensing the tension. "I might not be able to do much, but can you talk to me about it?" "What? How did you know something was wrong?" Natalie had responded, surprised by my intuition. "That's amazing. You can sense things like that." After hearing about the dire financial situation of the factory, I decided to help out with their living expenses. "We can't accept your money," Steve had protested initially. "I'm not giving you money to save the factory," I clarified. "It's for your living expenses. I'm not giving you millions of dollars, so please don't worry about it. I understand how tough running a business can be." "Kate, thank you so much. We'll pay you back someday, I promise," Linda had said, gratitude evident in her voice. "That's not necessary," I reassured them, feeling a deep sense of family solidarity that went beyond mere financial aid. As I stood there at the entrance with Kyle looking bewildered and defeated, I knew that despite the turbulent times, the bond with my in-laws had only strengthened. Sending money monthly to the in-laws became a regular part of my routine, not just as a financial aid but as a symbol of my commitment to support the family unit that had become more than just in-laws to me. This financial support was indeed a burden, but it was one born out of love and responsibility, not obligation. I knew they appreciated the help, but I also knew their support for me wasn't motivated by financial gain. They stood by me because of the genuine bond and trust we had developed over the years. However, managing the financial strain required me to adopt a more frugal lifestyle at home. My cafe was doing well, but the added responsibility of supporting 3 adults was a significant adjustment. In the midst of all this, the situation with Kyle and Mindy's savings had pushed me to my limits. When I learned that he had used the money I had been carefully saving for our daughter's future, it underscored a painful truth about his priorities and lack of responsibility. This was not something I could overlook or excuse, and it deeply influenced my decision to end our marriage. The in-laws had always encouraged patience with Kyle, believing that his emotional wounds from the divorce needed time to heal and that he would eventually step up and support the family. They thought revealing their financial struggles might push him further away or deepen his despondency. So, they chose to keep their business troubles from him, hoping he might naturally begin to show concern and inquire about their well-being. Unfortunately, Kyle remained mostly oblivious to the struggles around him, which only added to their sense of isolation. Confronting Kyle that day, when he suggested that it was impossible for him to have noticed the family's distress without explicit hints, I realized the depth of his self-absorption. "Hey, you really think I could notice that without any hints? It's pretty much impossible. You're not actually going to abandon me, right?" he asked, seemingly unaware of the implications of his own negligence. "I'm getting a divorce. I can't stay with someone who's always sulking, acting spoiled, and on top of that, steals. It's just not possible," I replied with a finality that left no room for ambiguity. "Kate is much more of a family to me than my brother ever was," Linda interjected, her words reinforcing the decision. The in-laws nodded in agreement, their faces somber yet resolute. "Today, Mindy and I will stay here, so you should go back home. But don't come back tomorrow. I'll contact you later to discuss the divorce details," I told Kyle, setting clear boundaries for our interactions moving forward. "Don't come back here either," Steve added, making sure Kyle understood the gravity of the situation. Perhaps feeling grateful that he had somewhere to go for the time being, Kyle silently walked away from his in-laws' house. Watching his retreating figure, I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. My marriage, which had started with love and hope despite my lack of romantic experience, had ended just 1 year later. The subsequent divorce proceedings went smoothly, considering the circumstances. Although Kyle had misused our daughter's savings, I chose to focus on ensuring stability and a positive future for Mindy rather than dwelling on retribution for his actions. This chapter of my life was closing, and a new, hopefully more peaceful chapter was beginning. The complexities of my personal life had taken a toll, but the resolution came in unconventional forms. Though legally it seemed unlikely that I could recover the $5,000 Kyle had spent without authorization, I proposed an alternative during our divorce negotiations. Instead of battling for the return of the money, I simply asked him to agree to the divorce. Given his current dire situation, jobless, estranged from both his and my family, it seemed he quickly realized that contesting the divorce over $5,000 would not only be a hassle, but potentially more damaging to him. In a way, considering the swift acceptance of the divorce, I couldn't help but see the expenditure as a peculiar sort of settlement. Custody of our daughter Mindy went officially to my ex-husband. This decision was agonizing for me. I struggled immensely with the choice. However, knowing that my ex-in-laws, who had shown nothing but love and support, offered to take care of her, I made the painful decision to relinquish custody. Despite this, the reality was that Kyle was in no position to care for her, and she would instead reside with my former in-laws. This arrangement allowed me to maintain a close relationship with Mindy, ensuring that I could visit her anytime I wished, which brought me some comfort amidst the upheaval. On the other hand, Kyle, now distanced from everyone, found himself unable to return to his parents' home and thus, from seeing his daughter. It was a harsh outcome, but one brought on by his own dependency and inability to handle his responsibilities. In the meantime, my business was expanding. I had opened a second store due to the growth of my cafe, and with this expansion came the need for more staff. I hired Natalie, who had previously been involved with her family's factory business but was now looking for new opportunities. This not only helped Natalie transition from the closing of the factory but also benefited my growing business with her expertise and familiarity with operational challenges. Additionally, the potential dismantling of the factory, which would have been a costly endeavor for the family, was averted when a contractor working on my second store introduced us to a company in search of a factory space to rent. This arrangement allowed the factory to remain operational under different management, providing my ex-in-laws with a steady rental income. Though they still had some debts, the combination of this income with their pensions meant they could manage more comfortably than we had feared. At first, the decision to close down the factory seemed like an insurmountable challenge, but it turned out to be manageable with the collaborative effort and resourcefulness of everyone involved. Today, as I finish my workday, the anticipation of visiting Mindy is overwhelming. Each moment ticks by slowly, heightening my eagerness to see her, to embrace her, and to share in her young life's simple joys and discoveries. This ongoing connection with my daughter is a profound reminder of the enduring bonds formed through family, both given